everyone, and welcome to the DIA Global Clinical Trial Disclosure and Data Transparency Conference. My name is Kristen McDougall, and I am the Director of Clinical Trial Transparency Services at DIA20. I am coming to you from the comfort of my hometown in North Carolina, and I want to thank you all for listening and attending virtually today. My presentation is called Drivers for Transparency Adoption, Research Comparing Today's Expectations Against the Future. It's about proactively planning for change and is a summary report on sponsors' abilities to meet public disclosure requirements. DIA20 conducts market research regularly in the adoption of transparency, standards, and technology. Regulations from Canada and the European Union surrounding data transparency in clinical trials make this area one of keen interest to pharmaceutical companies. DIA20 offers software and services to support anonymization of data and documents across regions and regulatory agencies. So earlier this year, we conducted new market research with pharmaceutical companies by sending out a survey, holding a focus group, and conducting several one-on-one interviews around sponsor readiness and their approach to transparency and disclosure requirements. Those results have been analyzed and put into a white paper titled Adoption of Anonymization for Innovation and can be found at d-wise.com. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of the key results from that research and about some of the actions we have seen from Health Canada since this research was conducted. The key findings from the report were really not all that surprising to me, but provide a good overall lesson. In general, the majority of the sponsors agreed that more transparency and disclosure requirements are likely headed their way, driven primarily by regulatory authorities, but some sharing that innovation and data sharing were driving factors for their organization. Compliance was the main priority, but having a strategy around that compliance was the second priority and came off as somewhat of an aspirational goal. The regulatory guidelines from Health Canada and EMA strongly encourage and prefer quantitative risk assessments in anonymizing documents. But because the main focus was compliance, most sponsors were utilizing redaction and a qualitative risk assessment as the most efficient way to deal with tight deadlines and a lot of unknowns. That is not the surprising part. Pretty much every sponsor we interviewed agreed with that this was not their long-term strategy. They didn't just want to be reacting to the requirements as a pointless activity. They wanted to be using anonymization and a quantifiable risk assessment. But they were each facing some different challenges there and were just unsure of what their next steps needed to be. One sponsor expressed this perfectly by saying, "We want sharing to be a strategic activity and know we need high data utility, but right now we keep getting knocked back because we're trying to keep up with compliance." Regarding data sharing, there is an undercurrent with balancing needs of internal and external parties, with privacy concerns of study personnel and patients. So that was the current state. And when we started to talk future state and the why behind the need to be prepared and have a strategy in place, data utility came up a lot. and the desire for these documents to actually serve a purpose. Compliance with all the different regulations was the baseline goal and expectation set, but everyone agreed that if they were going to be sharing their patient information, they wanted it to be meaningful and to add value to stakeholder groups such as patients, researchers, and the public. Constrained staff and unknown submission numbers were large limiting factors to planning. Both the focus group and the survey indicated that organizations had allocated few staff to data transparency, while 2 in 3 survey participants stated their organizations have dedicated transparency and disclosure departments. The average staff size is just 2 full-time employees. Focus group participants concurred, saying their groups are stretched thin to meet deadlines, and that, Health Canada deadlines definitely require strategic preparation up front and a dedicated team. Sponsors need processes in place before they receive disclosure requests. While redaction is still accepted, some recent actions by Health Canada are starting to put into question if anonymization is going to become mandated in certain scenarios. Several recent publications on the Health Canada portal that included full redaction of patient narratives were accompanied by a statement of non-compliance from the agency. This statement was in the form of a note to the reviewer. In short, it says that the package includes extensive redactions to the patient information, and that these redactions do not conform to the Health Canada guidance documents, which encourages manufacturers to retain the analytical value of information by using other transformation methods, and to apply these methods to specific information only that risks re-identifying an individual rather than to redact broad sections of information. It also includes a statement that Health Canada will continue to explore ways to help ensure all publications include anonymized personal clinical information, and that if you require the redacted information, you can submit an inquiry. It's unclear in what ways they are going to actually ensure that, and what information would be received by someone requesting access. And then there is also a question surrounding the legal liability if there is a breach of personal patient information. We've actually seen evidence now that Health Canada will perform those redactions themselves in the case of patient narratives that were fully redacted with one large shape redaction. Sponsors need to build some internal knowledge so they understand what is required for them to deliver not just compliant transparency submissions, but high quality anonymized documents that really maximize their potential utility. And sponsors have 2 main options there. They can certainly outsource the activity to a service provider, or they can build a team and purchase software. One focus group participant put it this way: with the extremely large amount of data and analytics that is becoming an ever-present component of this process, it is very difficult to develop an in-house solution that can fully capture all the nuances and complexities required for this type of solution. 90% of the time, we go to an external vendor or resource to look for a service or solution that can help us in this space. It's certainly a cost-saving measure and also helps streamline the process. Service providers have experience in doing this work for sponsors. They can help guide you towards delivering the package that is right for your participants' threshold for risk, taking rare diseases and sensitive information into account. Software that creates anonymized documents with a quantitative risk score exists today, and sponsors can buy it and build a team to use it. Education and training can be gained from clinical trial transparency consultants who can help guide you through the process. If you have a regular stream of yearly submissions, this can lead to significant cost savings for your company over time. Health Canada really changed the game with their regulation when it not only applied to new submissions, but also allowed for retrospective requests for past submissions and older documents. Receiving one of these random requests can rapidly add large amounts of strain onto your team, especially when they are already spread thin. I speak from experience. Anonymizing clinical study reports is not everyone's cup of tea. There are really a select few of us that actually enjoy it. If a sponsor does decide to build their own team and utilize software, they may also want to have a service provider lined up to deal with any overflow that may occur or to support with responses to the agency's